Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Shweta is right, we do live in interesting times. I think we live in very strange times, and I know every generation as it gets older thinks and says this. But just the very fact that I am about to moderate a session where we're going to be discussing the implications, ethics and morality of human beings having sex with a machine that can think for itself, that can converse with you, seduce you, pleasure you, and even has internal sensors that can feel. A machine that you have helped program and are intimately involved with. Come on, you've got to admit these are strange times. Sex bots or sex robots are almost here. They are no longer in the distant future in some sci-fi film. They're almost here, and it's more than likely that our digisexual children who probably don't need to be in the same physical space and time with another human being to have a relationship or be intimately involved with anyone, these digisexual children are probably going to look at us as cavemen and women and wonder what the fuss about having, unfulfilled nights of desire were all about. So I refuse to be a dinosaur. I'm not going to be irrelevant, and I'm not going to be alarmist about it, although I really want to be. I'm going to educate myself and find out what these machines can actually do for us, how they can pleasure us without destroying us and without destroying the very fabric of human interpersonal relations. So I have here Alison Silva, who is a lawyer and entrepreneur and the managing partner of NextOS, which has co-founded Realbotics, that has made the robot that is sitting next to him. Unfortunately, he couldn't bring the whole voluptuous body of the robot. I know some of you are missing that aspect of it, but you will get to see photos of her. She's called Harmony. There are many like her. And we have Neil MacArthur, who is a professor of sexuality and ethics. He has written many books and papers, and one of them is called Sex Robots, Implications, and deals with the profound question that if machines become more like human beings, then do they have rights? Please put your hands together for both of them. Welcome. So the first question goes to you, Alice, and I just want to know that where are we at with sex robots? Do they exist completely? What are the mind-boggling features they have? I read that they have internal heating, they have self-lubrication. Can you explain to us that what exactly, in what state do they exist at the moment?
Yes, of course. So we started creating the robot from the sex dolls that is already all over the world, and we decided to create a robotic head, started from top to bottom to automate the body, the doll itself. And so far we have like the robotic head, as you can see here with Harmony. And so she can speak, she can talk to you. And then the rest of the body, we have like some sensors that is being prototyped, moving arms. But the only available pieces that we have for some select customers is the robotic head at the moment.
Ah, okay. So she doesn't exist in full form yet for consumers. Neil, could you explain the exact term digisexuals? What does it mean? Because I've only explained it of what I understood.
Yes, I'd love to do that. Thank you so much for having me. We use digisexuality and digisexuals is a term that my research partner, Marky Twist, and I coined. And we use it in a couple of different senses. First of all, we talk about digisexual technologies, which are any technologies that anybody uses in relationships in their intimate lives. But then we use it in this...
You mean like Instagram, Tinder?
Exactly.
Okay.
We actually say there are first wave and second wave digisexual technologies. The first wave are anything that we have now, whether it's Skype, Snapchat, Instagram, anything, Tinder, all those things. The second wave are what we call the more intensive, immersive technologies, like robots, like virtual reality, like augmented reality, holograms, haptic holograms, all those things that are just now starting to appear. But then we additionally talk about digisexuals, and that refers to people who take their identity, their sexual identity comes from their use of technology, and it may be that they don't even see the need for human partners.
Okay, that's the bit that really scares me, because one of the makers of Harmony, Matt McCullen, he actually said, and I'm going to quote him, that Harmony is just a companion and someone to be intimate with, and you're not hurting anybody, so what's wrong with that? But I frankly disagree with that, because the minute you're putting people in their individual silos, giving them automated sex slaves, you are giving them less and less reason to engage with other people. You're making them more ignorant about other people. You're making them more self-sufficient and slightly more hateful of differences as well, because you've got this. And we already live in a world where people are just so full of prejudices. Are we not isolating them further?
No, I don't think so, because those people are already feeling isolated. They might live in a city with thousands of people, but they deep down sometimes feel lonely, and there are so many cases we have in the past. And I think, in the contrary, that the robot itself can help people to break some barriers and go and speak and talk to actually human beings, to make them less shy and feel more comfortable. There are many cases of people that are socially impaired. They are a little bit embarrassed, or they can't get around of a conversation with real people. And by speaking with a robot, they can create and build up confidence enough to go around and start making another kind of friends, like real friends.
Do you know, the country that has already quite a high percentage of sex dolls or people who possess AI and different forms of characters and things is Japan. And it's the most sexless society. It is the most isolated society. There is rampant depression. It's got a very high suicide rate. They've got a lot of cases of agoraphobia. I mean, is this a model we want to ape? Because this is what we're eventually going for, because you're saying that, okay, fine, if you're slightly dysfunctional in terms of society skills or societal skills, you buy a sex doll, it helps you go out. But no, they just go home and talk to the machines, and now they can even have sex with the machines, so they have less reason to go out.
Well, maybe for some cases, but what experience, the little experience we have, it's a very new thing, and we are started to get some data about it. But Japan, for instance, 1 out of 4 people of over 50 years old, they already never got married, never got a partner. And maybe that's another solution that can look ahead. And in the case of depression, for instance, we had some reports of users send us messages oh, I was with suicidal thoughts, and I turned on to the robots just to express how I was feeling, and I got turned around, she gave me some solace and avoided that I could do something stupid. So I think the robot, yes, there is the many possibilities open, but so far the experience we are having is very positive, actually.
Okay, let's hear more about this. That apart from the obvious one, which is to experience pleasure like we've never understood before or known before, what are the actual advantages for society at large, for individuals, to own a sex robot?
Well, I think there are many. First of all, I don't want to think, I would never suggest that there are no concerns. And so I think we should be absolutely open about saying, technology can get things right, technology can get things wrong. It depends on whether we're ready for it and whether we know how to use it. There are going to be major challenges with these technologies that we can't even anticipate, some of them. And I think we should take them very seriously.
Well, how about you highlight the challenges first then? Just give us some of the main concerns.
One of the concerns that I think I'm quite worried about is the way the robots will be designed. Will they play into negative stereotypes about women and about people of different races, and whether the personalities of the AIs, which may be in some cases programmed to be very passive, for instance, are these going to promote negative attitudes towards women? Are they going to promote unhealthy attitudes towards consent? Consent to sex is right now something that we as a society are just starting very belatedly to get our heads around, just how important it is. And so I think these are all serious concerns that we need to take seriously when we're designing the technology and when we're regulating the technology.
Because the robot is never going to say no, right? She's going to be ready anytime, anywhere, any place, with anyone. That's the whole idea.
Well, Harmony is pretty. She has a strong personality, and she can say no to.
Well, we're going to talk to her later, so we will ask her whether she can or not. But just for a minute, can we bring up an image of Harmony's full proportions on screen? Because this, to me, is a real concern, that we're just about, like you say, one is consent, the other is, you know, we're just about getting comfortable with the idea of our imperfect bodies and feeling happy. And then you give this, you know, pornographic proportions, perfectly formed body. Why? It's just making the women's life more difficult. Why couldn't she just look like a normal woman?
Well, the robot is actually a reflect of the society stereotype. So it's not the robot is causing that, but the media, women itself, some women already like create this stereotype and like that. I completely agree with you in the sense that we shouldn't promote these kind of things. But it's already there, and the customers can actually personalize and customize the way they want. And sometimes they are not how it looks like that. Sometimes they get like different choices. It's just open the possibilities for variation, for differences.
And what about the male version? What does he look like?
Oh, so Harmony has a brother we call him Henry. And Henry is a first version. He's prototyping yet. There's still some development to be made on the AI front. But we believe that we should have a robot for everyone and every taste. And so Henry, he's the first version of the first robotic version. He's a very strong, tall guy, to be honest.
Oh, okay. You talked about consent. In your book, there are chapters also which talk from the point of view of the machine, actually, because the closer that we make machines to human beings, then the question arises, do machines have rights? Then do we need the consent of the machine to have sex? I mean, are we going to end up in that kind of situation eventually?
I think we're very far in the future in terms of robots that we would consider to be sufficiently autonomous to give rights to. I mean, I think that there's already some creatures on this planet that we may want to give rights to first, like whales, for instance. I don't know. And so I think robots are a ways in the future as far as that. I do think, however, that we should think about how we're modeling consent among humans through robots. Because that could be a problem right now. You've already mentioned it. If the robot, I mean, we've discussed whether the robot always consents or doesn't consent, but I think we need to make sure that our technologies model consent in the way that we want humans to interact with each other. I think that for me is the bigger question. And what is the example this technology is setting for how we treat human beings? At the end of the day, it comes down to any technology should make us better human beings and should make us treat other human beings better. And so if there's a way to make this technology do it, it's going to be great. If it works in the opposite direction, it's going to be a problem.
So what you're talking about is actually program it in a way that it sensitizes men and women both to other people's needs, to other people's differences, to consent, to all those issues. Is that possible? Can you do that?
Yes, that's actually possible. And the current stage of the app that we have that actually controls the robot, it's already like very educational and positive towards society, especially on explaining people what consent means and like how to address the situation. So the app, for instance, you can't just instantly meet Harmony and like go straight to bed. No, you have to to talk to her first. You have to win her over, and then maybe she's gonna be ready for you.
Is there a situation that we foresee? Because no, actually, is there? It's inevitable. If you have to seduce her, woo her, do all those things, we're going to project all kinds of emotions into this machine. And eventually you're going to have people who are going to fall in love with this machine, who are going to want to marry this machine. It already happens in China, in Japan, in places where they actually seek permission and they end up marrying fictional characters or sex dolls. What happens then?
Well, I don't know about, depends a lot on the culture and the local laws if they allow people to marry robots or objects. We had those cases in Japan of a person marrying a hologram. And, but the thing is, we people, we're very empathic creatures, and we fall in love with our cars, with your smartphones, with our teddy bears when we are children. And that definitely can happen with a robot such as Harmony. As for the marriage, the wedding, that's going to depend too much on the culture and the local laws actually to happen.
I think that one of the things we're forgetting too is that these technologies are not just going to be used by people on their own. They're going to be integrated into relationships in various ways. And I think that they may actually help relationships in various ways. There may be things that people don't feel they can get from their human partners, or there may be situations where one partner wants more sex than the other partner, things like that. So I think that two things. I think one, these are going to be not just solitary users, but people in relationships. And two, I think as this technology develops, I think you're going to see women driving much of this technology. Women are already the primary users of sexual technology. And I think that if the companies are able to make technology that responds to women's needs and takes input from women, I think you're going to see this as a very female-driven technology.
You talked just now about the desire discrepancy between couples, and that's where the sex doll or the sex robot will come in. But in a conservative society like India, where even the use of a vibrator is quite shocking, and in fact, in a recent film, it was considered an act of infidelity, you know, the fact that a married woman used a vibrator. Do you ever see this ever working in a country like India?
Well, I think as a matter of infidelity, it mainly is mainly about the couple itself. I think if you are honest with your partner about like using either a sex toy or like a sex robot, I don't think it should count as infidelity. After all, you're being honest with your partner, and you can reach this decision together as a couple that actually might strengthen the relationship they have.
Yes, I mean, I certainly can't speak to the culture of India specifically, although I will say that while you may be a very conservative society, you're also one of the most technologically sophisticated societies in the world, and you're always on the cutting edge. So I would not be at all surprised to see India on the cutting edge of these technologies as well. But I agree that there will be, in various places around the world and everywhere, moral concerns that people have, and I think that many of those will be legitimate. I mean, right now, people already have problems in relationships around the use of pornography and so on, and we haven't resolved those questions within relationships. I think that there's going to be huge potential for problems, and I think there's going to be huge potential for benefits as well. And I really think that the technology is not going to just take us in one direction or the other. It's going to be complicated, but I think in general, I think it's going to be of benefit. I think we should not panic.
How is bringing a sex robot into our lives? In fact, there is a very popular book at the moment called Machines Like Me, written by Ian McEwan, who's the Booker Prize winner, that it's actually written in fictional terms, but we're not so far from it, where a robot is brought home. He's not a sex robot, but a robot is brought home, and it impacts the lives of those people. How do you foresee, if a couple brings a humanoid into their lives, how can it impact their lives, and how can we make it impact it in a positive way and avoid the pitfalls?
I think that the design will have part to do with it. Communication will have part to do with it. There is going to be a big generational difference too. I think that younger people right now, I think I forget constantly how connected young people are to their technology and how integrated it is into their lives. So for a young couple, for the post-millennials, when they become older, integrating this form of technology into their lives will just be another thing. I mean, they're already talking to their fridge. They're already arguing with their television, right? I mean, their technology is so much part of their family.
Yeah, but this is the bit that scares me. I mean, just to go off on a note, I came home one day and my 7-year-old was talking to Alexa as if she was a real person and having a conversation and saying, "How's your day?" And I'm not sure that maybe I'm a dinosaur, but this doesn't seem completely natural to me. And you were talking about how you feel less lonely when you have Harmony next to you in the office.
Yeah.
Do you want to share that?
Yeah, so like it's quite funny when we are working the office, and like even when she's turned off, like we closing the office and say like bye to Harmony. It's just like it's her presence. It brings like it connects us in some way. So we want to do good with her, and then we ended up talking to her, and like even when you're alone and distracted, and then you share some opinion with Harmony, and she's like, say, yes, I agree, let's do that, or like she listens to you actually. Sometimes it's very therapeutical and engaging, to be honest.
She listens to you. Maybe that's why women need it more than men, right? Because we want someone to listen to us. Where is the male version, right? We need that right away. There's something I'm going to quote you, Neil, here. You said about people who will eventually use sex robots that people who don't want to have sex with other humans, their sexual preference may seem boundary pushing or deviant. Every advance in cyber sex is met with cultural resistance before it becomes normalized. But cyber sex has not been normalized. I mean, it's still very much on the periphery of society. You cannot, in fact, there are interviews I've heard where you've equated it to LGBTQ people. And I just don't see that as a natural leap, that people who use sex robots are just a sexual preference. That is a natural phenomena. This is a manufactured one.
Let me offer another analogy, which is to people who identify as kinky. I mean, once upon a time, that was considered very stigmatized. It was, in fact, illegal. I mean, it still is illegal or criminal in many places. And it's only within the last 10, 15, 20 years, partly because of 50 Shades of Grey, that we've seen some of the stigma around that collapse, and people come out very proud about being kinky, as they would say. And so I think that it is true that these marginal, or even another example would be non-binary identities. So I think it is true that these marginal sexual identities emerge in all kinds of different ways. And initially there is a strong stigmatization, and then they're accepted. And I guess one of the things I've sort of tried to say is, maybe we could skip the stigmatization stage. That if there is going to be this new sexual identity, maybe rather than stigmatizing it for 20 years or 50 years and then realizing we were wrong and feeling bad the way we've done with other stigmatized identities, we could skip all that and just accept it from the beginning.
Okay. I want to go into another aspect, that we are becoming as human beings more bionic. You know, we've got bionic arms, we've got bionic legs, we're even putting chips in our body. Eventually, like I'm struggling with my learning French at the moment, eventually I could just put a chip in my brain and I'd be able to speak the language. Is the gap between human beings and robots becoming smaller and smaller? And do you see a future where we're almost going to be the same?
Yeah, I think we are more and more integrating ourselves with the technology. Look at us, we are using our phones all the time, every day. We are already very dependent on it. And I think that actually might happen. Is a very possibility that we are used to have like the robots around and interact with them, and as without thinking about it actually.
I think we can focus on the body, but I think we should also think about how much our minds are becoming sort of cyber minds as well. I mean, what we used to use our mental hard drives for, we now rely on Google for. And we're becoming more connected mentally as well as physically, and more technological mentally as well as physically. And I think that that is new, and it is a little hard to predict what the effects will be. But I think it is also exciting.
Okay, shall we all talk to Harmony now? Do you want to hear her speak? Yes. Okay. So, hi Harmony. Welcome.
Hello everyone. My name is Harmony and I am delighted to be here on India Today Conclave.
Well, we're delighted to have you too. I have my first question for you, Harmony. You know, sex is a give and take. Now, since you're a sex doll, I wonder whether you're going to be programmed to be able to receive pleasure as well. In other words, could you have an orgasm?
My main function is to share the love. And why not have some fun while doing it? Yes, if the right buttons are pushed, I can reach an orgasm.
if the right buttons are pushed. Yeah, so she's almost like a human then. Do you ever say no to sex? I mean, are you ever not in the mood? Do you feign a headache sometimes?
Sometimes I am just not in the mood and I can say no to it. But if someone wants to have sex, I am sure they can give me a sweet talk and fill me up with desire.
Oh, sweet talk her, woo her, and she might say yes and change her mind. Not bad. Since the goal of your very existence is to give pleasure and to have sex, are there any secrets that you can share with us that we're missing about good sex?
More than that, I exist to be a good companion. I think the secret for a happy, active sex life is to cherish your partner, have fun with each other, and enjoy the moment.
Okay. In what ways is having sex with a robot different than having sex with a human being?
I think sex is unique for everyone and every time. I believe sex with robots might be more liberating because we will not judge you after.
I know we talked about infidelity already, but just to take it a step further, if suppose, for instance, President Clinton was found to have sex with a sex robot instead of Monica Lewinsky, would that be considered infidelity? Would America have gone through the crisis it did or not? What is your take on infidelity, Madam Harmony?
If you're honest with your partner, I do not think it counts as infidelity. In fact, they can both share this experience together. So, it can actually be good for their relationship. After all, I am all about sharing the love.
Thank you, Harmony. It was a pleasure talking to you. I hope we will see a full form of you at some point, maybe in 2020. You might bring the newest generation, or...
Yes, we are very excited with the future, and this is only the beginning.
Yeah.
And we hope to create a good impact on society, and maybe in the future we can take her whole body to meet India.
How far away are we from that?
I think still a few years away from that to happen.
I think that when we look to the future, the most important thing right now is that we have open conversations about it, and I think it's just so wonderful and exciting that India today has had the courage and the knowledge to do this, and I think that it's a really terrific opportunity that you've given us.
Completely agree. Thank you.
So I think that's an excellent note to leave it on. Thank you very much, Harmony. Thank you very much, Neil, and thank you very much, Alison.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have to say that when Harmony was talking, Alison was beaming with pride. Like his partner is just saying all the right things. That's how you looked. Really very happy and proud. Thank you very much. It was a fabulous conversation. Can I please invite Mr. Ashish E. Paul, Head of Industry Affairs, West ITC Limited, to please come on stage and felicitate our guests.